Hey, did you know Long's Products is a family-owned janitorial supply with mops, brooms, trash bags, and they even have food service disposables, carry-out plates, and to-goes? Check us out.
It's time for the Rapides Parish Fair at the fairgrounds, just past LSUA. You'll love the Mighty Thomas Carnival rides and your favorite Carnival classic foods on the Midway. Admission is just $2 per person, and kids 5 and under are free. Stop by the Livestock Barn or Barnyard Nursery, or visit the Why Not Stop Stage, the official fuel stop of the Rapides Parish Fair. Go to rapidesparishfair.org for more information. We'll see you at the fair.
Good morning, Congressman Fields. Thank you for joining us today on UrbanCast. Let's Talk Show. We know this is a critical time for our country, and we appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to address the issues that matter to the folk here in central Louisiana. And again, we truly appreciate you coming back, even after we had those communication issues the other day.
Well, Jack, I want to thank you for having me back. And it's always good to talk to you and your entire listening audience, particularly Central Louisiana. And I apologize for the hiccups we had last week, but I think we got them all fixed. So let's have a good show.
Man, it's sounding a whole lot better. I'll tell you that much, sir. Congressman, many Sin-Law families are concerned about the government shutdown. What immediate impacts that Louisiana residents, what kind of impacts do you think the people of here in central Louisiana are going to feel with this?
Well, I mean, anytime there's a government shutdown, federal workers are either furloughed or they go to work as essential employees. But at the end of the shutdown, traditionally, they always get paid. The furlough participants, as well as those who were essential employees. Mm-hmm. Postal Service is not affected at all because Postal is an independent agency, so they don't have to depend on the federal government. So you will receive your mail. The best thing to do is what we're trying to get out to people is if they can go to my website, fields.house.gov, you can see all of the, traditional questions and answers that people have asked across the years when there's a government shutdown. We don't like government shutdowns, quite frankly. But the whole purpose of the whole reason why we in a shutdown is because we're fighting for people's health insurance, health care. In the big ugly bill, they cut over 15 million people health insurance by deleting people off of Medicaid. That's going to impact Louisiana drastically. And then the ACA expires. We have premiums that we pay a portion of subsidies under the ACA, and that expires on December 31st. And so, we're saying, listen, we want to make, get some assurance that we are going to renew these subsidies. And some of us actually want you to, want the government to backtrack on this big ugly bill and, not take 15 million people off of health insurance. That's the big debate in Washington. The bill passed the House without my vote. It's balked up in the Senate now because the Senate see it like I see it. I mean, we are the richest country on this earth. I mean, we send billions upon billions of dollars to other countries to fight wars, defend their countries. And right here in America, if we can't, get people affordable health care, shame on us. If these subsidies expire, people are going to be paying as much as $2,000 a month more for their health insurance. So that's what the big fight is about. This is the 8th day of the shutdown. I would hope that we get the government open as soon as possible. I'm in Louisiana now. Many Democrats are in Washington. I'm working the district, but we just got to get the government open. But it takes people sitting around the table negotiating. And you don't do that by, when the president canceled his meeting with the Democratic leadership on Thursday of last week, and then decide what week before last, and then decide to have the meeting, Monday the next week. That was the first time Mr. Jeffries and the president met this whole year. So we can't talk about we're serious about keeping the government open with that kind of behavior. And then right after the president met with the minority leaders, you know what he did? He put out a meme, a racist meme, and who does that? We need to be adults. We need to sit around a table. I think Democrats have a good point. We've got to, take care of people's health insurance. And if we can do that, let's get the government back open, get people back to work.
Yeah, I know you mentioned a lot of times folk get paid after these shutdowns happen. But over the last couple of days, there's been a lot of words about some, the essential workers may get paid once things are back online, but the furloughed workers may not get paid. What's your thoughts about that, Congressman?
Well, that's more rhetoric coming out of the White House. That's not the way we do it. That's not the way you treat people. Everybody gets paid once the shutdown ends. That's has happened, umpteen years. And for the president to use these idle threats, first he said, first thing he was going to do was cut out Democratic agencies. What the hell is a Democratic agency? Man, grow up, and now he's saying, well, those folk who are furloughed, they are not guaranteed to get paid. In fact, they're not guaranteed a job. Look, the military certainly has to be paid, and they are not going to lose their jobs. But just like everybody else, we should treat this this shutdown just like we've treated any other shutdown in the past. I think President Trump just loved fighting in court, but that's the way it should work. Now, if he does something different, obviously lawsuits will be filed, and yet another day we'll be in court fighting against one of his asinine, executive orders.
Okay, and some of our listeners are really concerned about healthcare. We already know, I think, some of the hospitals here in Central Louisiana are slated to be possibly shut down. And, some of the comments that have been made is that, we're going to aggressively move forward with those shutdowns and different things of that nature permanently, with this shutdown. What do you say to the folk here in Central Louisiana that really need these healthcare type of resources?
Well, we've been fighting for them, and they're right. There are a lot of rural hospitals that will close. There are some rural hospitals in America that are closing right now. Some in Louisiana on the verge of closing, and we can't let that happen. And that's what the big fight is about. My attitude is I want to reverse the big ugly bill as it relates to the Medicaid cuts, but I'll settle for making sure that people receive their subsidies under the ACA, the Affordable Care Act, by the 31st of December. Look, this impact is impacting Louisiana. This healthcare impact is impacting Louisiana more so than any other state in the nation. As a member of Congress, I'm duty bound to fight for folk that I represent. As I've said time and time again, I don't represent the president. I represent the people of the 6th Congressional District. And the route that we are taking now is very destructive to their health care. There's no secret. We will suffer the most if the subsidies are not extended. We will suffer the most if the big ugly bill goes into effect next year, whereby people will lose their access to Medicaid. Hospitals will close. They did a $50 billion bailout, not a bailout, just gave them $50 billion, but that's not enough. Hospitals will still close. First of all, healthcare costs are too much. We got to do something about tightening up how much people pay for healthcare in America. We have to do that. And but we can't do that in taking away their health insurance at the same time. It just doesn't make basic sense. People will die, because of a lack of health care in this country. And then, we talk about, I hear the Speaker of the House, with all due respect to him, and the president, they talk about, well, what the Democrats are trying to do is protect undocumented immigrants. That's a lie. That's just not true. We're fighting for American citizens. It's already illegal for undocumented immigrants to have insurance in America. Now, if they go to the emergency room, they're about to die, something like that. Yeah, we treat everybody the same, but no one is fighting for undocumented immigrants, But don't sell those type of false talking points to the American people. We're fighting for you, and look, it's going to be drastic on Louisiana, and I'm going to do everything I can do this, to fight in Washington. I'm heading up there next week to make sure that we can bring healthcare to the forefront.
And since we're on healthcare, over the weekend, there has been, with Alexandria, Central Louisiana being, heavily military background, a lot of retirees in our community from Fort Polk over to what was considered the old England Air Force Base. There's tons of military type, communities all throughout this area and all throughout North Louisiana that rely on the VA. And with everything going on in Washington right now the rumors are we going to start seeing an escalated, stance or plan to shut the Alexandria VA down at this point? What's your thoughts about that? Because that's real in the folk that are listening to us out here, in their mind, because they made this community their home based upon having access to
healthcare,
a VA hospital.
Yeah, no, I don't know of any intentions of closing or slow walking the hospital in Alexandria, and would fight vehemently against it. That would be contrary to what we do. We normally keep Veterans Affairs operation untouched during the shutdown. No, I have not heard of it, and we'll fight to the nth degree if the president or the administration takes that position. I don't see in my wildest dream why they would. These are people who have served this country and served it well, and they ought to be able to come home at the very least and have decent health care, And so, yes, we would fight any measure to interrupt any services for veterans across the district.
Congressman, you represent a district that's, not all urban, but it has a significant portion of the community that is rural, across the aisle from what you represent. With all of the confusion going on, what do you say to those constituents who are frustrated, confused, and just really upset at this point about what's going on in Washington? Speak to those folks.
Well, first of all, they should be. And, luckily today, many more Republicans are moving closer towards the Democrats on these issues, because when they go home and they talk to their constituents in rural America and urban America, people, you can't just say you're going to take away the health care of Democrats. This affects every single person. And so I think people in rural and urban America are saying this is enough. And I think if the bill comes back to the House, there'll be more Republicans working with Democrats to make sure that people's health insurance are good. Now, in terms of, I can feel the pain of like farmers. We hadn't passed the farm bill, in years. And these tariffs, that's impacting our farmers. Our farmers are now looking for bailouts, because, some countries are not buying their products. China, for one. It's just this. That's why when the founders created this country, they created it as a tier country, 3 branches of government, and every branch is equal. No branch has no more power than the other. But we just find ourselves in a time where the executive branch have just usurped all of the powers of the legislative branch. And the executive and the judicial branch is hanging on. I mean, they really are. They're really hanging in there. But I feel their pain. I mean, people are having pain all over this country, and they need relief from Washington. And I have to be optimistic. I think the relief is coming. How long? I don't know. But it's going to take reasonable people sitting around a table, not working for Democrats, not working for Republicans, but just working for the American people. And I think that's what we need in Washington.
One last question, Congressman. There's been concerns raised by some constituents regarding your purchase of Oracle stock. How do you respond to these concerns, and what steps do you take to ensure transparency and maintain public trust?
Yeah. Yes. There's some watchdog groups in Washington, D.C. Every time a member of Congress purchases a group of stocks or sell them, they basically make it. The world is falling. There's insider trading, and then sometimes local press catch on to it and they roll with it. But from my perspective, I've been trading stocks long before I was a member of Congress. And I'm going to comply with all of the rules and regulations as a member of Congress. In fact, the only reason why people know that I bought the stock is because I complied with the rules. Members of Congress have to file stock transactions, when they buy or sell a stock, within 45 days. I report mine a lot sooner than that. A lot of times at the end of each month, I report all of the stocks I've bought or sold, and then these groups, watchdog groups, they say, well, this member bought this stock. He had to have had, or she had to have had some insider information. No, that's illegal. Now, if for somebody to assume that President Trump gave me some advantage by saying I'm gonna sign an executive order to have Oracle to be part owner of TikTok, that's nonsense. You think the president would give me that heads up? But even if I had a heads up, I wouldn't use, you shouldn't use insider information when buying stocks. And that's not the way I operate. And I don't think members of Congress operate that way. I'm going to continue to buy stocks because I did it before I was elected to Congress. And I'm going to continue to do it. And I'm going to do it the legal and the right way. And every transaction I make is public because I follow it with ethics well before the time that is due. So no person need to have any concern about me buying stocks and not making it public or buying stocks on some insider information.
Congressman, do you have anything else that before we get out of here? I know you have a couple of other engagements that you have this morning. Did you have anything else you'd like to say that we didn't?
Well, I know that the governor has requested troops, 1,000 troops, to come to Louisiana. I have opposed it. I've made it clear to the Secretary of Defense it is not warranted, but not just in Louisiana. Look, I'm opposed to the president using the National Guards anywhere in this country for police purposes. I mean, there's no insurrection. The time for the president to have used the National Guard was on January 6th. He was the president. There was an insurrection at the U.S. Capitol. We had thugs and ruffians that just invaded the Capitol and tried to steal the Constitution. What did the president do? He sat on his hands. He didn't call out the National Guards. You had members of Congress begging him, we need help. There's an insurrection taking place. Several officers lost their lives. You know what the president did? He when he became president again, after he did send the National Guard, he basically gave every person who was put in jail for causing an insurrection in our country a pass. He pardoned them. Look, President playing games. Crime is a real problem. It's not a game. You don't use your members of the military to do police work. That's an insult to our men and women in uniform. If he was serious about solving the problem, he wouldn't have cut, $880 some million out of the crime prevention program, $4 million from Louisiana. You want to work with your local law enforcement agencies, give them the tools they need, help them with their budgets, give them the monies they need, instead of moving our armed services, our armed forces across the nation. That's just not appropriate. Nobody feel comfortable when they see their U.S. military with armored vehicles, with assault rifles sitting on the side of the street. They don't feel comfortable when walking the street. They feel like they're in a war zone. Look, it's a prop to me. It's illegal, one. And I'm going to fight it as long as he continues to try to do it. The courts have already spoken to this, by the way. I'm sorry, Jack.
No. I guess, the concern I have is that, I review the comments that, the folk who are over here on UrbanCast make all the time. And here in Alexandria, we have a crime problem that's probably second to no other city in the state of Louisiana from a per capita standpoint. And, when I speak to elderly folk, they're afraid to even set out on their porch. Families are afraid to allow their kids to go out and play. This is the reality of what people are facing in the city of Alexandria. Now, you go right over to Pineville, it's not quite so bad, but in many ways, the people of Alexandria are saying, and they're saying it loud and clear, we need some type of relief, and, so if it's not the National Guard that's need to be the solution, what could give the citizens of the city of Alexandria that relief? Because right now, we have our community isn't even talk. The sky ought to be on fire right now instead of saying, "Hey, we need some help here," but we ignore it. Yesterday here in the city of Alexandria, Congressman, we had a huge issue, and police, fire, utility, EMS, and from all over the place converge in a situation, and yet and still we haven't even heard anything about it. It's as if the things are happening, we put a lid on it, we don't talk about it, but the residents in our community know that they're happening. So how can our federal government actually help us here in Alexandria?
Well, the federal government can help by giving block grants to local police departments, just like the crime prevention money that the president clawed back, monies that were already approved by the U.S. Congress. Look, it's going to take a serious discussion. Look, I understand when you say the lady sitting on the porch, not feeling comfortable sitting on her porch in our own community. The local government should work with the federal government to get whatever resources they need to make sure that that lady feels comfortable. A lot of that has to do with local policing. I don't think the answer is taking National Guards and putting them on the streets of American cities. I think that's counterproductive. These men and women are trained to fight on foreign soils for the most part, and they're trained to kill. They're trained to fight the enemy. We don't want our guardsmen to feel that the American citizens are the enemies. Yes, we do have a crime problem in Alexandria. Be the first to admit it. We got a crime problem in Baton Rouge. Got a crime problem in Street. We got crime. Anytime there's crime, there's a crime problem. But there's an appropriate way to address it. We need more community policing. That can be funded by the federal government. We can save this money by moving our National Guardsmen all over the country, paying ICE agents $50,000 just to enlist. So it's not the question of whether or not we have the money now, because obviously we have it. So we need to spend it in these local communities. And then we got to make sure we hold police officers accountable. Let them know that this is not a job to empower you to go in and assault the community. You're there to serve and protect. And a lot of people forget that. They just feel that they're just there to protect and not serve. But some of it has to do with pay. So we need to increase the pay of law enforcement, pay them for the work that they do. Let them be respected at what they do. Let them be well trained. That's how we start solving the crime problem in this nation. And we got to take somebody got to be serious, in the White House, and just take that first step, not just sending the big guardsmen over, to solve the problem. Because what I predict he's attempting to do is start an insurrection, where the military is at odds with the citizens. And that's a dangerous, dangerous thing for this country.
Well, Congressman Fields, I want to thank you again for being with us today, and let you know that you're more than welcome. We'd love to have you letting us know what's going on in D.C. on a reoccurring basis and addressing these important questions that's really on people's minds right now. Our goal is always to bring clarity and accountability to our community. Right. And to our followers, we definitely want to say thank you for staying engaged with UrbanCast. We also want to recognize our supporters who make these conversations possible. Sadler's Towing, Long's Product, Legendary Kung Fu and Tai Chi, United Wrestling Entertainment, and the Rapides Parish Fair. Again, Congressman, we definitely want to say thank you for taking your time.
Thank you, and I apologize to you and your listening audience for last week, and I'm glad we got it straight.
No worries, sir. If you just hang tight, we're going to go ahead and end this stream. And if you need to go ahead and leave, Congressman, you can go ahead. All right.
Thanks,
Talk to you later, sir. All right.
Hey, did you know Long's Products is a family-owned janitorial supply with mops, brooms, trash bags, and they even have food service disposables, carry-out plates, and to-goes? Check us out.
It's time for the Rapides Parish Fair at the fairgrounds, just past LSUA. You'll love the Mighty Thomas Carnival rides and your favorite Carnival classic foods on the Midway. Admission is just $2 per person, and kids 5 and under are free. Stop by the Livestock Barn or Barnyard Nursery, or visit the Why Not Stop Stage, the official fuel stop of the Rapides Parish Fair. Go to rapidesparishfair.org for more information. We'll see you at the fair.